Welcome back to another episode of Self-Care, Sound Mind, a podcast and live series. I'm your host, Kiara Moore, and tonight we're talking all things self-care with my special guest. She's an author, therapist, and mompreneur, Mrs. Kresence Campbell. Hey everybody, welcome back to Self-Care Sound Mind, the podcast and live series. This is episode 2, and I am super excited because we are talking all things self-care. As usual, let me get myself together. Let me share it. I want everybody to see and join. If you are on Facebook or YouTube, welcome. I know we have some people tuning in from the Embracing Oak and the Kiara Moore Therapeutic pages. I'm super excited, so thanks for joining. Tonight we are talking self-care. And as you guys know, I like to coin myself a self-care advocate because it is so important. Coming from personal experience, I've learned firsthand the importance of self-care and making it an intentional part of our lives. And so today I'm going to share a few things. One I forgot, so I'm going to have to do in a second. So let me just share with you today. As I mentioned, we're talking all things self-care. Self-Care Sound Mind podcast and live series is a podcast that I started to uplift, empower, and encourage. I'll be doing this every 2 weeks. We'll be talking about everything related to mental health and self-care, and also to encourage a sound mind. So before my special guest joins, I want to talk about a few self-care items. I might have to actually do it at the end because I was so excited I forgot to put it close to me. So my 2 self-care items of the week I'll share with you guys at the end. Anywho, one thing I do want to share, one of our colleagues and one of the ladies who joined me in my mental health meetup group, her name is Nasima Palmer out of Philadelphia. I want to give her a shout out because she had a grand opening over the weekend of what I call a self-care oasis. So she provides mental health therapy, but she also does V-steaming, Pilates, yoga. She has an active wear line, and she has a physical location, and I'm just super proud of her. So I wanted to give her a shout out. Her business is called Vivid Bell, and her location is 1543 Dickinson Street in Philadelphia. So ladies, check her out. I am sure that you will not be disappointed. Later on, I'm going to show you my self-care item of the week, which is from our special guest from last week, Ms. Krista Harris. She has a self-care, she has a hoodie with a self-care message. And so I'm going to show you guys that pretty soon. I did also want to make a quick announcement. So most of you know my group practice, Embracing Oak Therapy. We have a campaign where we are doing we're trying to provide free mental health therapy to those who can afford it, to those who are in need. We all know that around deductible time, those deductibles are high and it's hard to reach just by being in therapy. And sometimes people have to sacrifice their therapy because they can't afford it. We don't want that to happen anymore. So if you could go to Embracing Oak, embracingoak.com, you can donate to our campaign. I also want to show you something new. I can reach this one. Sorry, I wasn't as prepared as I thought. So for everyone who purchases my Tender Loving Self-Care shirt, all proceeds for this shirt will go to my mental health campaign. So if you buy a shirt at embracingoak.com/self-care shop, and I'll post all this stuff for you guys in the comment section, you will be directly helping us fund the free mental health campaign. So those are my two self-care announcements and shout outs for the week. I think we are ready for my special guest. Everybody, let's welcome Mrs. Kresence Campbell. Hey.
Hi, everybody.
So Kresence and I went to grad school together. So we are schoolies. Shout out to Eastern University. Pumping out the best therapists out here.
Listen, all that work they put us through, you daggone right.
Child. Okay. That was not an easy program.
Listen, there's a couple professors I still have nightmares about to this day.
Listen, I totally understand. Oh my gosh. It was not easy. And I was working full time. So child, this goes back to my need for self-care. Okay. Full-time job. Okay. Let's even go further than that. I was supervisor at my job. Okay. Planned a whole wedding, got married after the first semester, had no idea that summer classes was actually starting the week of my wedding and honeymoon. So I had to make up a whole week work of summer work, which is already accelerated.
Okay.
Then what else happened? So then we moved. By the time we graduated, we just bought our house. So then I had to move in. Then I was driving an hour home after class that ended at 9:45. And this is why I need self-care in my life. Because
I was just telling one of my clients, she's graduating with a degree similar to us. And I got engaged our sophomore year. I didn't get married till after we graduated, but like senior year, it was in the morning, literally 6 a.m., going to a babysitting job at 6 a.m., doing that till 9, then internship, returning back to babysitting job, class at night. Or if I wasn't going to class at night, I was working till 11:30 at night and then back up at 5 to go to work. Listen.
And this is why we are champions for self-care.
It got real, but we had to remember too, it was a season. It was only temporary and we got through it. And now we're, bearing the fruits of our labors. But grad school was hard.
Listen, I love that. I tell people all the time, don't despise the building phase, right? Because eventually you get to reap all of that. And so that is so true. Yes, we had to that was our building.
Yes.
And we have a lot to show for it. Congratulations to you and all that you do. Because let me tell you, I remember being like, let me call Kresence because she got her private practice and I need some help. And then I was like, well, maybe it's just not time. And God was like, really?
Wait, can I tell you, somebody called me from our cohort and was like, Kiara's doing the same thing you're doing as self-care. And I was like, because we all need it. We all need self-care.
Well, duh. Let's just talk about that for a second, right? Because it is easy in our human nature to get discouraged when we see people doing similar things.
Yeah.
So we'll give space to that, okay? It is easy to get discouraged. However, one thing that I have to remind myself, and I try to remind other people, is that, number one, we are different people. We know different people. We have different audiences, different target audiences, different family, different friends. And so who you're reaching is set for you to reach. And who I'm reaching is set for me to reach. Not to mention we in different states, but okay. You know what I mean? Like, this is collaboration. Ain't no competition over here. We all need help.
We all need to eat. We all need help. We all need assistance. Listen, you going to the store.
I need help. Can you help me?
You know what I told you before we got on?
Yes.
Listen, it's 15 different loaves of bread in the grocery store.
Okay.
But we all need bread.
A whole aisle. And guess what? When there's a storm, it's all going to be sold out.
It's all going to be gone because we all need it.
Because we all need it. I love that. Thank you so much for that. That just segues us right in. I mean, this is just, it's already good. Okay. So you are, first of all, there's so many things I want to ask you, but go ahead and tell us who you are. I started to say it, but I thought maybe I should let you introduce yourself and tell us all about Kresence Campbell, Holly Street Counseling, all of that wonderful stuff.
All right. Well, I am Kresence Campbell. I am LPC in the state of Pennsylvania and Connecticut. I'm a certified family trauma therapist. I am the owner and operator of Holly Street Counseling. I'll tell you a little history about the way that the name for my counseling practice came about. I'm an author. I'm a full-time entrepreneur as of February, I think, 22nd.
Yes, full-time.
Yes, I left my clinical director position at a Philadelphia mental health agency and decided to do this on my own full-time. The pandemic had made everything bubble and explode. And I had so many people consistently coming
Yes.
that needed services. But at the same time, I found myself not able to find a balance in my self-care working where I was working at. Nothing against the job. Beautiful people, beautiful coworkers, love all of them to death. When I left, there was no bad blood. But what was going on in the agency, I couldn't find a balance. So my balance was leaving. So I became a full-time entrepreneur after leaving my clinical director position at a Black nonprofit in Philadelphia. I'm also the owner of a online self-care experience boutique called Kresence Marie, named after myself.
And we have the same middle name, by the way.
So Marie's not my middle name.
Oh, okay.
No. So Marie is actually my mom and my grandmother's middle name. So it's paying homage to them. Yeah. Well,
we're the special ones then.
The special ones. I'm a self-care advocate. You know, we were just talking before I came on, telling you my own struggles with self-care, and you kind of smacked my fingers and was like, excuse me, what are you doing? But sometimes it's your own self that you have to preach to and encourage yourself, you know?
Yes.
You got to know your limitations. You got to know what you can handle, what you can't handle, and knowing what that self-care looks like. And we could talk about that a little bit more because it ain't just bubble baths, tea, and massages. It's so much more.
I wish it was just that, but it's not.
It's not. That's a part of it. That's a beautiful part. But
that's the part that I do the best at. The massages and the spas. It's those heavy hitter questions that I'm like, maybe I need to process that with somebody. Okay.
I don't think I'm really ready for that one. Can we just skip to the mimosa?
Right. Can we just do the massage and the facial and the bubble bath at the end of the day? But no, it's I mean, you know, we both have books and I definitely want us to get into them, but they are, while they are similar, like I was reading through it and you said some really, really great things, but I just want to mention one thing. Y'all, Kresence be on TV, okay?
Oh yeah,
Kresence is like a celebrity therapist, you know, an expert in what's the show? For My Man. I don't know the network that it comes on, but
it's TV1 For My Man. I was on there twice.
TV1 For My Man. She is a recurring therapist, a recurring expert psychotherapist, and I just absolutely loved seeing you on TV. By the way, that seemed like it was a great experience.
It was.
So I just wanted to throw that out there because I thought that was amazing.
Oh, and I was on the radio for 4 months last year, right before COVID hit.
Oh, hold on. Sorry. I'm pressing buttons. Maybe I need to process. I was trying to make sure that
I'm really ready for that one.
I was trying to make sure that we were live on Facebook and I was pressing buttons. Sorry. So go ahead. You were on the radio?
Yes. So a friend of mine who's also a mental health therapist, he had a weekly Wednesday night radio show, and I was the featured therapist every night with him. But that ended right when COVID had started.
Okay. Well, nice. Congratulations on that. I mean, we won't have to talk. I want to be on TV too.
I got you.
Let's get into, well, first, I also want to talk about it because you are a mompreneur and a new mom of two. Child, I got one. And I'm just leaving it at that. I got one. How is that going for you? And how important is self-care at this point in your life?
It's going. We're making it. It's hard. Yes. I would be a liar if I said, oh, it's easy. It's hard. I was talking to my girlfriend last night and I was like, I feel like I'm going to have a breakdown because I feel like I cannot control things in my life the way I normally control them. And I always find it funny when my friends and family try to be the therapist for me, and I'm like, y'all learned a little something from me. But what she said to me, she was like, self-care, stop trying to control everything, let everything flow. And I was like, you know what? You're absolutely right. A part of the self-care for me, being a mom of a 8-month-old, he'll be 8 months old tomorrow, and a 5-year-old, is not just saying stepping away because mom needs a break, being okay with saying, you know what? My mom would kill me if she heard me say this. It's some dirty dishes in the sink and it's gonna be okay.
It's gonna be okay.
It's gonna be okay.
It's gonna be okay.
It's gonna be all right. Listen, their toys are all over the floor. It's gonna be all right. It's some baskets of clothes. They're gonna get done, but not right now, because we're not gonna stay up till 1 o'clock in the morning.
Well, we're not.
When he still gets up at night 2-3 times and she still gets up and you don't have any sleep because you wanted to get the laundry done. Who are you trying to impress? Take your mom to sleep. So for me, my self-care has had to look a little bit different, and especially trying to manage my energies to have energy for both of them.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks a little bit different, but it's more vital than ever.
Wow. I love that. And the fact, oh my gosh. Okay. So that was so good. One of the things that I talk about in my book, and Drop Your Cape, available on Amazon. And also, I'm trying to get 100 women to get this book. We are 40 books away. And you know what? Mother's Day is the perfect time.
Yes.
So one of the things that I talk about, and we both mentioned the different areas of wellness and how that plays into self-care. So I love that. But the one thing that I talked about, let me see. I'm pretty sure it was it was in the how to drop your cape. That's the section that it was in. And the tip number 2 is discover who you are in this current phase. Because I think about, like, even so May, hard to believe, but May, my husband and I will be celebrating 10 years of marriage.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, I just can't even. I'm like, first of all, how am I that old? Okay. But I got married when I was 23 years old.
Yeah.
I was 23 years old.
Wait, you got married when we were in grad school?
First year. Yeah.
All right. I got married right after we graduated. So I'm okay. We're right behind each other.
Yes. And I'm like, I am not the same person that I was 10 years ago. No, and rightfully so, because we're supposed to change and evolve, right? But so much has happened that has changed me on a fundamental level, right? So 10 years ago, I was just going to grad school, first year of grad school. So this was my first time, like, apartment and, all that kind of stuff. I had the whole dorm and apartment dorms and all that, but like for real adult this time. Mm-hmm. Okay. Like can't fall back on, resident director, parents, all that, for real adult. And part of my cape and all that kind of stuff in self-care is learning how to not be too independent. But at that time, I had a lot of learning to do. So there was a lot that I was doing alone. And from that person to, getting married and starting my career and losing a job and becoming a homeowner, and then my brother died, and then becoming a mom, like all of these life changes. When you're going through situations like that, it changes you. Sometimes positive, sometimes negative. But when you're going through those phases, your needs are different.
Absolutely.
And if we don't recognize what we're experiencing, we can't recognize what we need and how to get what we need in those moments.
Say that.
So when you said, like, the dishes is going to have to wait. Now, when it was maybe just baby girl, maybe you want to have that attitude. But now you got baby girl and baby boy. Look, I got 2 hands and neither of them going to be in the sink. Okay. One on each kid. So to recognize, okay, what I did, who I was, what worked then may not work right now. And that is okay.
Absolutely. And that's why in my book, I talk about one of the first important things in self-care, the word self. If you don't know who you are, you can't care for self, right?
I got it marked.
You got
That's
it marked.
exactly where I wanted you to go.
Okay. If you don't know who you are, you cannot find balance in your current state of affairs. And this is not a shameless plug, but
No. Tell them
balance, finding balance in your current state of affairs, because our current state of affairs, not even just COVID, but our lives are changing and evolving every single day. You know, my book this is a redo, if you want to call it that, of my first journal.
Okay.
After I had my son, it was like a month after I had him. I remember I love water. Water is something that is very peaceful for me. And I went to the water, I had him connected to me, and I heard God say, emerging. And I was like, emerging? And then he let me sit with it for about 10 seconds, and he said, emerged. And I was like, oh, I'm a whole woman.
Oh, yeah.
I was emerging. I mean, I'm here. This is where I'm at now. So my book changed because I had to reflect not only the change that was going on in my life, but I had to find a new balance in my life. I had to find new self-care, because with baby girl, my self-care looked completely different. But again, I had to realize I'm not woman-like anymore. I am a woman. So who are you? Self. I'm a grown whole woman with 2 kids, a whole husband, it looks different now.
On top of being a mompreneur, that's a whole nother thing. That whole thing about knowing who you are, right? That identity thing. I struggled with that when I became a mom, and there was such a guilt that I felt becoming a mom and changing in my identity, because it was something that I struggled to get for so long. Dealing with infertility for 5 years and being told I would never have children naturally. And then to miraculously have my son without any, scientific intervention, literally it was a miracle. And to the guilt that I felt of like, but then there's so many more sacrifices, the sacrifices when you become a wife, like even that whole identity, as much as I wanted these things, these were changes that came in my life that I had to make adjustments to, that I had to figure out how to operate in. And when you don't know who you are, again, you cannot get what you need. You said a couple things I want you to point out. Talk about, I think it was, I got it marked. You talked about self-care and you used the word responsibility on day 3. Can you talk about that?
So the word responsibility means that it's something you are in charge of, right? Care. If something's put in your care, you're charged with the responsibility of preserving it and maintaining it. If you don't understand what the word self means, and if you don't understand what the word care is, you can't put the two together and implement it. You are responsible for you. Yes. Now, when you're born, your parents are responsible for you, right? Because you don't know any better. You're young. You can't do any of these things. When you become a certain age, and even at a young age, you're responsible for taking care of yourself, whether that in whatever form that looks like, right? You are responsible for you. You are entrusted in your own care. You are the one that's charged with preserving you. Nobody else.
Nobody else. I love that, because oftentimes we do look for validation. We look for, happiness in other people, but it's our responsibility not only to know what makes us happy and to engage in those activities, but to also recognize that we have to be able to communicate, right? We have to be able to receive. There's so many, I was like, okay, well, check me then. We have a responsibility. And I love, when I talk about being intentional all the time, right? With self-care and all of those things. But when I look at it from the perspective of responsibility, it is my responsibility to take care of myself so that everything else that I'm responsible for can fall into place. I absolutely love that. And it goes back to another point that you mentioned about pouring from the empty cup, right? That's a phrase we hear all the time. You can't pour from an empty cup, but you went a little further and said, nor can you pour from a cup with cracks and holes. I felt like you just chin checked me. Like, okay, maybe your cup ain't empty, but it might be a bit damaged. And there may need to be some repair.
Mm-hmm. Because even if
that's your responsibility.
That's your responsibility. And if it's damaged, it still functions. It's not functioning at 100%. But if you can't function at 100%, how can you give 100% to somebody else? That doesn't make any sense. That there's no logic behind that.
Oh my God.
You're just leaking everywhere.
Child, one of the things when I reflect from, how I've grown and things, from over the past 10 years. And I say 10 years because while there are a lot of really great lessons, in high school and college, like things really got real for me within the past 10 years of becoming, an official adult and getting married and all that kind of stuff. So when I think about that, and I thought about grad school and even undergrad too, I learned how to multitask and to give everything, right? I like to say I'm a third generation cape wearer, right? Mm-hmm. And I am dropping the cape with this generation. I will not pass this idea that I have to be everything to everyone all the time. But my mother, my grandmother, ultimate superhero, strong Black women, right? And so it was difficult for me to give all of myself in any area. And I feel like everything that I did suffered in a way because I was never fully present. While I did well in school, I could have done so much better if I focused more. But I was in the gospel choir. By my junior year, I was working full time. I was directing the gospel choir. I remember, and this is just nuts. I remember working an overnight shift, okay? Because after my internship, they hired me as an assistant manager for a group home. Why I took it, I'm crazy. So I remember working an overnight shift, coming home. Thankfully, it was a day that I didn't have class the next day. So at least I was smart enough to work that out. I slept throughout the day. I woke up like 20 minutes before choir rehearsal, grabbed my roommates and was like, you sing this part, you sing that part, I'm gonna sing this part. All right, that works. Let's go to rehearsal. Taught the whole song, right? Directed, but had I had time to really focus on school or let me rephrase that. Had I took the time to really focus on class, maybe I wouldn't have done okay. Maybe I would have excelled. If I had time to focus or took the time to focus on really perfecting the craft in music, maybe I could have even taken it to another level. But I was just giving bits of myself and not present 100% in anything. I'd be at work listening to music for choir rehearsal. I'd be at choir rehearsal thinking about what am I going to eat for dinner. I'd be out, I'm in class thinking I got to get to work on time. So not present in any of those moments. Yep. That is what a functioning but not totally whole cup looks like. Mm-hmm. Because when what little energy or whatever I might need for myself, that's just falling through the cracks. What? I was like, get out of my life, Kresence. Get out of my life. That's like the first exercise. I was like, I'm gonna have to not read this right now.
Who she thinks she is?
But I absolutely love it. Like this is exactly what we need. We need, and I know that self-care has become a bit of a cliche and, it's a buzzword, but I don't care how much of a buzzword anyone makes it out to be. We have a responsibility to take care of ourselves. And when we do that, everything else around us will seem like it's in place. Will it balance out all the time? No. Because everything doesn't hold the same weight. But when you take care of yourself, you can say, I'm going to prioritize the kids today. I'm going to prioritize the business today. We're going to go on a date night and prioritize our marriage. You'll be able to do all of those things because when you ain't running around feeling depleted and crazy, then you can think logically.
I'll tell you One of the biggest lessons I learned in self-care, first year of grad school, and I don't remember if you were in my class. We had the group dynamics class. I don't know if you were. So group dynamics class, I had an older lady in my class, and we were at the part where we were in the group. We were in the groups ourselves, and the TA was running the groups. And my bio dad was sick. So backstory, my bio and dad and I have always had a beautiful relationship, amazing father, but he was always in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out. Had daddy issues, struggle with all that, whatever, what have you. And he got sick to the point that he was continuously saying to me, it was fall semester, come see me, I need you, come see me, I need you. And I was like, I can't do it, because every time I open this door, you disappoint me. And I don't want to be disappointed again. And I remember this woman, and I remember talking about it in group because I was so conflicted. And she said, just give him some grace. He's your father. Kiara, he died 2 days later. I don't regret not going to see him. You know why? Yeah. Because I had to put myself first.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And God knew my heart, but I could not allow myself to continue with the in and out, in and out, in and out. It was the first time in my adult life or my life period where I had the ability to say no. And I set that boundary, self-care.
Self-care.
And it was hard. It ended with him passing away. But I knew in my heart of hearts what I did and why I did it. And I knew God knew the reason why I did it. That's why I say self-care is not easy. It's hard.
It's not. It's not easy. And I do remember your dad passing while we were in school. We didn't have as much of a working relationship as we do now, but I do remember that, but I had no idea about that backstory. But you said something that is so important, the boundaries. That is a huge part of self-care, because whether it's our lack of boundaries and us bending boundaries to do for others because, we think that's what we're supposed to do, or if it's our inability to say no. Because a lot of that is the inability to say no, feeling guilted into things, and who knows, that could have felt like another rejection.
Exactly.
That it could have been processed that way. So even when it's hard, there are times when, I know people really want or need things from me and I just can't, or I have to put my family first, or I have to put, a responsibility that I take important. I have to do that because that is where my boundaries are. And if I can do other things, okay, great. But listen, I have set some new boundaries in my life this year, and it has proven to be a great choice.
Yes.
And now to the point where I have people who are like, hey, I wanted to talk to you about something, but I wanted to make sure you were okay to talk. Can you talk? Like, are you in the right headspace? Because I have to let some people know, like, look, I am not always in the headspace to deal with you or whatever's going on in your life, especially for free.
Yes, my girlfriend just did that the other night. She messaged me and was like, are you in the space to deal with me right now? And I said, thank you. And I was like, I don't know if I taught you that or if you did that on your own, but either way, because we don't think about that, right? People will call you and just word vomit. They don't know if you sleep, if you dead, if you hungry, if you tired, if you clean, if you they didn't ask nothing about you. You need to respectfully ask if you can now come into my bubble in my space.
Let me tell you, it is imperative. And this is all a part of self-care, y'all. Like, we didn't forget. We said it in the beginning, if you're just joining in, the bubble baths and the spas and all that kind of stuff, while that's all great, that's just that's just scraping the surface of what self-care is. Self-care is setting boundaries. Self-care is saying, I don't have the capacity to deal with this. I grieve totally different from my family. Okay. My mom has life-size posters of my brother. Okay. Like, she has like full out, big old poster boards of, from his funeral. He's buried around the corner from her house. Like, I really tried to get her not to do that and she didn't listen to me. But like, I am an avoidant griever. because I have to be in the headspace to be available for other people. And if you trigger me before I go into a session, I can't effectively do what I'm supposed to do, because I'm going to need time and space to get my own self together. Because while I say I'm an avoidant griever, but I don't avoid grief. So let me reframe that. I don't avoid my grief, but I make space for it when it comes up for me.
Yeah.
But if you throw it in my face, if you call me crying, or if you call me wanting to reminisce, or send me random pictures, you're throwing me off, okay? Yeah. And I can't do what I need to do. So I had to be like, look, mom, okay? Look here. I can't, okay? Yeah. My husband took a very big risk in getting me a portrait made of my brother and my son. My brother never got to meet my son. It was a beautiful picture, but it's in my basement. Because I have to, I mean, it's not like covered or anything. It's visible when I go down there, but that gives me the choice. Yeah. You know, if it was hanging in my house and as soon as I walked in, it was the first thing, how am I going to do anything? You know? So when you make those boundaries, look, I'm sorry, I cannot do it right now. Okay. Yeah. You know, I'm just getting off. I was available to everybody else. Let me get myself together. And if I'm available later, we can have that conversation. If not, tomorrow when I'm up and running, you'll be the first call, but not today.
You had to deal with the kids too, though. As a mom, one thing, my daughter, love her. She's very vibrant, she's talkative, energy driven, and I'm a morning person, but she's like hit the ground running morning. It's not like a, hey mom, you awake. It's a like, mom, wake up. And listen, mommy can't wake up like that. And I love you. Mommy needs a minute so I can get myself together, so I can get together with you. And I will go in my bathroom and I will close the door in her face and lock it. And she gets mad. And I say, listen, mommy needs a minute, because if mommy can't open her eyes, then I can't look at your beautiful face and make you breakfast.
I love it. And, you know, so, and your daughter is at a place where she's able to, you know, whether she likes it or not, she's able to understand that a little bit better. And like my son, who is extremely intelligent, but he's learning these things now. Now I might have to have this conversation quite a few times, but he's 3, so he's very much still like, you know, crawling all on you. Now, granted, when I come home from work and I want to spend time with him, he's watching Blippi. Okay, I'm watching TV. That's his favorite line. My mom will FaceTime and people be trying to talk to him. I'm watching TV, and he goes back to it. But when I gotta work, if it's a remote learning day and I'm home, he's climbing on me. He wants to say hi to all the faculty and the faculty meetings. And, you know, I'm like, where was all this energy when we had time to play together? Okay. But we're getting there. We're getting there. But that goes back to, like, I remember, and I know you touch on this as well in what you do. You're also an advocate for postpartum depression and postpartum mental health. And in the last podcast, we talked about that. But it was a lot to figure out, how can I manage and get any type of self-care or take a moment for myself when I'm nursing or I'm pumping every 2 hours, or like, you know, he's screaming his head off or he's still waking up every 2 hours. Like, that's a lot. What do you say to the mom trying to find balance right now?
5 minutes is better than no minutes.
Girl, preach.
Because, listen, we set ourselves up with these expectations. The kid, I woke up this morning at 6 o'clock. I'm going to get up. I'm going to work out from 6 to 6:45. They'll be up by then. I'll start getting stuff together. These people were up at like 6:25, 6:30. And I was like, I called them my roommates. I'm like, my roommates are so annoying. But then I had to stop and change my mind frame. I was like, Kresence, but you got something in.
Yeah.
Because being a mom, you can try to block off your time, but it doesn't always work. Be grateful for the minute that you have and sit in that and appreciate that. Because when more and more you keep living with this lack mindset, I didn't get enough, that doesn't support your mental health, right? Living in this lack mindset of I need more, you're never going to be happy. And how do you know when you're happy?
That's
so you gotta go in the bathroom and take an extra 5 minutes on the toilet, then take that extra 5 minutes and take some deep breaths for whatever you need in that moment. You can do a 5-minute meditation. You can do 5-minute mantras, whatever that 5 minutes needs to look like. Take that and feed into you. If it's 5 minutes every 2 hours, you have to be flexible with these objectives and these realities that you want to meet. You have to be objective and real.
Yes. Because let me tell you, expectations, you'll be disappointed every time. Disappointed every time. But I love that, because even 5 minutes here and there will accumulate. You know what I mean? Like, you'll still feel the effects of those 5-minute increments versus nothing. That was powerful. I love that. I love that. And even in everything, who was that? Oh, you know, I was working with someone this past week, and we have some issues with goal setting. And I mentioned that. I said, instead of all this pressure that you're trying to put on yourself that doesn't work, let's just work until you can't do it anymore. You know what I mean? Work within your focus, into your attention span. If you only got through 5 minutes, great. Move on to something else and then go back to it when you're able to reset and refocus. So whether you're a new mom or not, taking these small moments, right? Even if it's just these, 30 seconds, a minute to breathe, right? Take time, take a couple deep breaths, reset your heart rate. It'll help you think logically and clear, and you won't be ready to snap and kick the dog and beat the kids and all that. You know what I mean? It will allow you to reset. That was powerful. I want to mention that kind of goes right into, perfect segue, into something that I wanted to bring up. I was listening to a training over the past few days, and you and I are both therapists. We're both entrepreneurs. We're both moms. We're both wives. We're both self-care advocates, right? We both went to the same school. We're both Black, we're female. We got a lot of similarities.
Oh,
but in all of that, right? While and I'm sure I can speak for you with this, that we try to be the best therapists and to really help our clients, right? Because we're passionate about what we do. But this is the first time that we are in the exact same boat of our clients at the exact same time. Yes. And child, let me tell you, I have noticed, okay, so a few weeks ago, I tried to do a little family care and do a family vacation for my spring break from school. I work in the school system, so I'm blessed with those spring break and summer breaks, right? My 3-year-old did not get the memo that this was supposed to be a relaxing vacation. And he probably won't go back on vacation until he's 10.
I bet it was.
He has not yet made me change my mind about that. So right now we're still looking at 10 years old because.
Wow. They do it.
I almost packed up and went home the next day. My best friend had to talk me out of it. She's like, no, it might be better tomorrow. Try again tomorrow. I was like, no, we're going home. We're going home.
I'm over it.
Home so bad, we're going home. We ended up riding it out. It was not easy, but I was more exhausted, closer to burnout, and extremely fatigued when I came home. Having to go back to work, all that kind of stuff. And so it is now 3 weeks later, and I honestly, from an emotional standpoint, am just recovering. Like, I started to feel like I was recovering last week. This week, I feel like I'm recovering a little bit more physically. Like he was literally waking up in the middle of the night. Like, neither of us were sleeping, which meant neither of us had a great attitude. He also does not eat. So that's frustrating. So I'm like just recovering, right? On top of still being in a pandemic, still witnessing the murder of Black people, still, all of this stuff. So, and this is what I do when I'm stressed. I just be like, oh. So
take me now, Lord, please. It's hard.
So compassion fatigue is a real thing, right? And for those of you who are caretakers, or you may have a sick loved one, or you are a helper, or you're a teacher, or whatever you do, compassion fatigue is a real thing. And so one of the things that was mentioned in this compassion fatigue training that I listened to today, some tools to overcome it, and because when you have a stressful job, like I have some doctors and nurses and things like, and I should say things, and occupations of such in my caseload. And so, helping them throughout the pandemic has been, it's been hard because of how hard they've been working, right? And so they mentioned 4 things today: self-regulation, intentionality, perception, and perception maturity. I'm gonna just say that because I can't get the other word out. So having more of a mature perspective of your workplace and how that operates, self-validation, connection and support, self-care, and revitalization. Like that's what they said would be helpful for compassion fatigue. Oh, I know where I was going with the whole doctor thing. Like, you can't always control the environment when you're at work. And the question was posed, like, is it the job's responsibility to create a more conducive environment, or is it your responsibility to make sure that you are well enough to handle the stress? And the answer is both, right? But what do you do from a self-care standpoint? While all of that is great, but what would you suggest to a person who is just like, I am in a constant state of stress and I'm trying to implement self-care, but I'm burning out, or I'm on the verge of burnout, or I'm having this compassion fatigue? How would you, other than getting the book, Balance, Finding Self-Care, finding self-care in your current situation, outside of the book, how would you encourage someone who's experiencing that level of stress? Or what advice would you give?
I think we got to figure out what the etiology is, right? Figure out what the root is. What is causing that stress?
Love it.
Is it something that you can change, or is it something that you cannot change? Let's talk about our feelings surrounding that, and not just those surface level emotions. Let's talk about the surface level, the primary, the secondary, and the third, those root emotions. Let's really get into that. Process all of that and what we're talking about and what we're feeling. And then let's talk about, in a perfect world, what would it look like if you could change it? All right. And then what do we need to goal setting, right? What do we need to do to be able to meet this perfect world goal that we want? How can we break this down? What can you implement? What can you take away? How do you hold yourself accountable for it? How do you hold the other people around you accountable for it? One of the things that I talk about in the article in the Huffington Post I was featured in, I talk about mindfulness.
Come on, Huffington Post. I didn't know about that one.
Mindfulness. And mindfulness doesn't have to be this big, scary thing. People will say to me in my practice, oh, I can't do mindfulness. My mind just wanders. That's a part of mindfulness. The part of mindfulness that I love is the grace and compassion you give yourself for allowing your mind to wander. Mindfulness says, go ahead, process it, figure it out, and gently come back. And that's the same thing when it comes to a lot of these difficult emotions that we are often running from, right? COVID, racial injustice, right. Political burnout, so many different things going on. But the more and more we live in this world of toxic positivity, oh, it's going to get better, everything's okay, we're running from it. Don't run from it. You've got to mindfully allow yourself, go to where you're going, process it, and come back. So figure out what the root is. How do you really feel about it? Can you change it? Can you not change it? And then that branches up in 2 different things. Right. Okay, if you can change it, what do you do next? If you can't change it, what do you do next? You have to really break things down and get to the core, because the more and more you just say, oh, I don't like this, or I'm unhappy. Okay, that doesn't tell me much. We need to know more. You need to know more. I don't need to know more. You need to know more.
Listen, that is wonderful. I am, people ask me, we talked about this before we started. People ask me like, I don't know how you do all you do. Like when I get an idea, if I don't do it right then and there, it ain't gonna get done.
Yep.
So I get this creative burst of energy and I do as much as I can. And when I'm done, I crash and I ain't doing nothing else for a while. Right. And so I'm definitely in one of those, like, I'm not doing anything right now kind of headspaces. And so, but I've been like, okay, where am I at emotionally in this? Because it's not just like, oh, I'm tired. There's a whole lot of other big emotions going on. Mm-hmm. And so by allowing myself the grace to say, something's not right and I need to figure it out.
Yeah.
Allowing myself to say, I wouldn't have handled that the same way if I was 100%. So let's go back and think about that. You know, one thing I do try to pride myself on is I'm not super quick to react and say things. So I do give myself time to, because my mind will take me places. Okay. I've been making up whole scenarios. Okay. And so I have to give myself a little bit of time to process. Is it me or is it them? And sometimes
there's a cognitive distortion happening right now.
Exactly. And so I recognize some big feelings, and I recognize that I need to sort them out, because it's, as much as I'm here, there, and everywhere, so is my mind, right? So I'm taking time to kind of like sort things and put them in perspective and really be able to communicate, because that's a huge part of self-care, right? You can't just start saying, you know, every Saturday I'm getting up and I'm going to the gym and I'm going to the spa and I'm going to go swimming at the Y and I'm going to go to brunch with my girlfriends, and then your family be like, what? Wait a minute. You know what I mean? So there's some communication that has to happen. Like, okay, mommy is going to make some changes in her life that are going to be beneficial for everybody. Absolutely. And this is how we can work together, right? So communication is important. And so one thing that I was able to kind of give myself space for this week is to express that I'm struggling with being present for everybody else and not present enough for me. While I'm way better than I was, I recognize that, okay, this week I need a little bit of extra time. Because what I've been able to manage is not manageable this week. And so I need to work that out, because if I don't, it's going to continue to spill out and spill over. And I don't want to contaminate everything else I got going on because I didn't take time to deal with these big feelings, right? That is self-care.
Absolutely.
Not only is it self-care, it's marriage care, family care, business care. It's gonna deal with everything, because I'm taking that time to say, okay, this is where I'm at with that. And also, like, it's funny because I like to say that my ambition and my body have a quarterly meeting. And it's like, hey, you've been running the show for a while. And while everything is wonderful, I'm really proud of you. It's my turn now. And you need to go on vacation and you need to sit down. You know, and so it's kind of like that. It's kind of like that. And I'm in control now. And so unless you want us to just shut all of this down, we're just going to go ahead and give you that notice that we're going to be taking a break for a while. And I'm like, well, okay, then all of that is going to wait.
Listen, I like to say to my clients, so when do you want to, I'll have my notebook. Tell me what day you're scheduling your burnout. And they'll give me that look and they'll laugh. And I'm like, the reality is we can schedule our burnout, right?
You be my therapist, because I need you to say that to me a couple times a year.
we got to jump ahead of it, because if we don't sit down, God, and this is not to offend anybody, whatever your belief is, he going to sit you down. So you go ahead.
Right,
He gonna sit you right on down in the most humbling way possible. So you go right on ahead and think you run everything.
listen, I don't want him to humble me. I just want to listen. I have been humbled enough
to
know that I just need to listen. Stop being hard-headed and listen. Because what we do is, when we go back to that word responsibility, right? When we're not responsible for the body that we were blessed with, when we're not responsible for taking care of the only thing that we are in charge of,
Amen.
how can anything else in our life go well?
Nothing. If you can't take care of the most important thing that you were born with to take care of, you can't do anything else. But in the communication part too, I wanted to jump in. We have young kids and we talk about dropping the cape, right? So when I go in the morning and I close my door for 5 minutes, that shows my daughter, mommy loves everybody, but mommy has to take care of herself, because the superwoman complex. You talked about your mother and your grandmother, all the women, not my family, and you too as well, probably. We've seen them burn themselves out at both ends of the stick. I let my daughter see me cry. I tell her when mommy doesn't feel good. Mommy had to, I had a doctor's appointment today and she asked me about it. Mommy had mommy juice today. Why are you upset? Mommy needs a minute. She'll have a tantrum and have a day and I'll walk away. Why are you walking away? Mommy needs a timeout because mommy's feeling really upset. If she's done something that's hurt my feelings, you said this to mommy and this hurt me. So mommy has to go take a minute to talk to herself to figure out why she's upset, because I don't want to talk to you right now because I don't want to say something mean. We have to communicate that to our young kids so they learn.
And what I love about that is you're communicating verbally and non-verbally. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Our children are picking up on everything that we do. My son, oh my gosh, sometimes I just be like, really? I'm not happy to you. I'm like, you're not happy to me. I'm not happy. Why aren't you happy? Because I'm sad. Well, why are you sad? Because I don't want to clean up. Okay, let's talk about that. Do you want me to throw all your toys away? No. Then you want to go clean up then. Okay. And then yesterday my husband he said, look at those clouds. They're really frustrated and sad. He said, well, why are the clouds frustrated and sad? Because it's going to rain. Oh, okay. Because you know how and YouTube's, usually they have like a sad, like a rain cloud for like sadness or anger or something like that. I was like, he's a sponge. You know what I mean? He is a sponge, and you only have to do or say something once or twice and he's got it. And so communicating effectively with our verbals and nonverbals, absolutely imperative, because what is that doing? Not only is it preventing the cape for the next generation, it's showing them how to manage their emotions. Why are kids being overly diagnosed with ADHD and oppositional defiance disorder and all this stuff, EMDD, the new one, it's because they don't know how to regulate themselves. They have all this energy, or they're just going back into the classroom when they've been home and things are so different. And no one's giving these children space to say, well, how are you feeling?
Yep.
I'm feeling like I got ants in my pants because I ain't had to sit still this long in a year and a half.
Yep. My daughter, she will go. And instead of allowing people to say to her, you talk too much, we've taught her that when you're doing this, that shows us that your body is really excited and you're looking forward to something. So what can you do to calm your body down? And she just, I want to say, not last week, the week before, she just went back into school physically. And I said, how was your day? And she was like, it was exciting. Why was it exciting? She was like, well, we did this, that, and the third. And I was talking a lot, but I told him, I'm just so excited to be here. And I laughed.
But her saying to the teacher, I'm just so excited to be here, changes the teacher's perspective of why she's doing that.
Yes. And
it'll also change their behavior and how they respond to that. That communication was so important in that moment. Yeah, and that 5-year-old was able to do it.
Proud mommy moment. Proud therapist mommy moment.
Good job. I love that. Well, I'm not going to take up too much more of your time. I just wanted to make sure that we covered it all. We talked about self-care, what it is, why it's important, whose responsibility it is. If you missed that part, it's yours. We talked about, balancing life as a mom an entrepreneur. We talked about the book, Finding Balance. Where can they buy this wonderful interactive book?
So they can follow me, and I'm going to put it in the chat. They can follow me on IG at Kresence, the psychotherapist. And then the link, I have to make sure I spell it all the way out. And the link is in the bio. And the only reason why I'm not telling you the exact name to get to there, because it's a big cartel link. And I can't remember if it's like crescencemarie.bigcartel or bigcartel.crescencemarie.com, but it is in there. And I will send it to you if you want to put it in the chat as well, so you can share it with everybody.
And as usual, you can find Drop Your Cape and all the other books that I have. They're all available on Amazon, or you can go to kiaratmoore.com, or you can go to embracingoak.com. So Kresence, I am going to bid you a farewell. Thank you so much. You have no idea how wonderful this are. I appreciate the sacrifice you made to join tonight. Hopefully it was helpful to you as well, but I know that I got so much out of it, and I really appreciate you being here. Continue taking up space, continue doing all that you're doing, because you have no idea the impact that you're making. And in those moments when we want to shrink, you got those eyes looking up at you, but not only that, but you have so many people supporting you in your corner. So when it's a tough day, when mommy has a doctor's appointment, and you're trying to figure out, why the heck am I doing all this? Because somebody out there they are listening to you, and you are changing their life. So I appreciate you. And
listen, same to you. You talked about the highs and lows, and I was in my low, and I was watching you. I was like, oh, she did, and I want to do, and all right, Kiara, all right. We're gonna get it done. We gonna get it done. So thank you for everything that you are doing. I am extremely proud of you from the bottom of my heart. Everything you are doing is phenomenal, and I wish you all nothing but the best. We need to get together outside of here physically. We got some things we're gonna do. It's in my head, but we gotta get it.
Listen, I am all about collaboration, and part of my self-care is getting out of my own way and no longer thinking that I have to do it by myself. And let me tell you, it is already making a difference. The pressure that has been released from me. A lot of this stuff I do because I love to do it, but it also is deep rooted in my cape.
Yep.
And so the collaboration, I am all for it 100%. And this podcast is actually dedicated to, having the conversations with other people, because this is the help that I need. And I want to share this. I love for these conversations to be on lives, because while we're helping each other, there are going to be so many people who are out here just listening and being like, yes, I needed that. So again, I'll put her links in the chat. Kresence, mom, wife, mompreneur, Holly Street Counseling, 2-time TV expert therapist appearance.
Presenting post commentary provider.
You look fabulous on TV, by the way.
Thank you.
Fabulous. I love it. I'm really, really proud of you. So I will let everyone know how to follow you and where to go. All of that will be in the chat. Awesome. Feel free to check it out also on anchor.fm. We'll be on Spotify, Google Podcasts, and a few others too. I'm working on Apple Podcasts next, but we'll be all out there. Share with all your family and friends, everybody. I have a few more announcements, but I am going to let you go so you can get your rest. Have a great day. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. I'll talk to you soon. Good night, everybody.
Wasn't that, just amazing. Thank you so much, Kresence. So I have a couple more announcements. I was a bit ill-prepared at the beginning. I forgot my product. So I want to share again. So I have my Tender Loving Self-Care t-shirts, okay? These t-shirts I have in white, black, and purple. I may even have a couple red left, but these shirts are a part of my self-care advocacy, but also I'm using them in the inventory that I have left, which is limited, but I am going to give all the proceeds from these t-shirt sales to my free therapy campaign through embracingoak.com. For those of you who know, this year, or for those of you who don't know, this year I started a group practice, Embracing Oak Therapy, because the pandemic and the stress from the pandemic and social injustice, it forced me to expand. And so I want to focus on low income and the low income and underserved populations. There are so many people, even just being out of work due to businesses closing down, there are so many people who are in need and can't afford the help that they need. And so if you go to embracingoak.com, and I believe that is in the chat, if you go to embracingoak.com, you can donate directly. But if you also want to, you can purchase a shirt and all the proceeds will go to the free therapy campaign. Feel free to do either or. I also want to highlight our self-care product of the week. So if you have a self-care item, body butter, scrubs, V-steams, mugs, hats, shirts, whatever it is, if you have a product and you would like me to showcase or shout your business out, you can email me or contact me at Embracing Oak or Kiara Moore therapeuticservices.com. So this week we have this wonderful sweatshirt. Let me see if we get a good angle. Here we go. Ugh. Okay. This sweatshirt, it says BBDT Mental Health Starter Kit. Get snatched, edges laid, bottomless mimosas, and therapy. This is Krista Harris. She was our special guest from our first episode 2 weeks ago. This is her self-care product. And it's actually, by the time of this podcast and live series, it's actually sold out. When I got it from her, she still had some inventory left. So good job and congratulations to selling out. But if you follow BBDT, the Black, Brown, Delaware Therapist directory, you can follow that page for updates. So again, and when she'll restock. So again, if you are looking to have your product showcased, you can email me or contact me through embracingoak.com or kiaratmoore.com. Thank you all so much for listening, for tuning in. All of the books, all of my books are available on Amazon. I will put the links for them all in the chat. I just really appreciate you guys listening and being a part, for sharing all of those wonderful things. I'll also share Kresence's information. That was just an awesome time tonight. Thanks for listening, everybody. I want you to listen up. 2 weeks from now, we have another episode of Self-Care Sound Mind, the podcast and live series. Stay tuned for those following announcements, and I will see you guys in 2 weeks.